Tony, I just pulled the table.
Roll with share the street.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Somers Town Board Work Session starting here at 7:02 on Thursday, May 2nd, 2024. We're going to get right into the meeting here for this evening. Give a little bit of a Town of Somers update, and we'll change it up here a little bit. Anybody here we have a proclamation for National Arbor Day, which was on April 26, 2024. And I believe we have some representatives here who want to come up and kind of maybe just read the proclamation. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees and renewable resources giving us paper, wood for homes, fuel for fire, and countless other wood products. Now, therefore, be it resolved on the behalf of the entire town board of Somers, I, Robert Scarano, supervisor, do hereby proclaim Friday, and this is April 26, 2024, as Arbor Day in the town of Somers. And I urge all citizens to celebrate the day next year and as well, and support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands.
Very
You
good.
guys, would you like to say anything? Or?
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to go.
Mike.
Great.
Bob McGregor.
Yeah, just say your name.
The only thing I'd like to say is that saving and maintaining our trees in town are very important. And we as a tree board are behind that effort. And just so people understand that we've done a basic assessment of the number of trees that are on town property or property that are managed by the town. And that number is over 250,000 trees.
Wow.
So it's a significant number. The other important number is that tree population has absorbed and is storing over 200,000 tons of carbon. So it's very important. And each year those trees are absorbing 10 million pounds of carbon each year. So I hope that everybody in town will get behind the effort to save our trees.
And plant some.
And plant some.
There you go.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Michael.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Michael.
Mike, do you want to say anything or?
Gail? Nothing?
Yeah. Michael Barnhart.
Yeah.
Simpson.
Yeah, say your name so we know, so they know who you are.
I
Go on,
don't,
though.
I would only like to
They don't say their name.
reiterate a quotation, which is the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time to plant a tree is now.
Very
Very
good.
nice.
Very good.
Yeah, Michael Barnhart, Chair of the Somers Open Space Committee and Tree Board. I just want to thank you guys for supporting the effort to protect the town's tree resources, street trees, it's park trees, town trees, and also forests and so thank you very much, and look forward to continuing into the next year and following.
Thanks, Mike.
And Michael, thank you. Patty, are we still the only town in New York State that has adopted the 30 by 30? We had a resolution. We were the first, at least. I don't know if we're the only. Right. Okay. Well, we were the first, and a lot of that is your help, and you drafted much of that. And that's a good aspiration for the town that, that's what we will continue. And in those protected spaces, obviously, there will be trees and hopefully lots of them. So
Yeah, considering we're mostly a forested town, anything we preserve will preserve trees and forests, and they will do all the good things for us that the proclamation mentions.
and it's not just Somers. I mean, everybody benefits by that.
That's right. Right. Well, it's a worldwide effort, actually.
Sure.
30 by 30.
Protect the Amazon basin would be
Yeah, that would be good. Or Oriole Forest,
we can't quite pass that resolution.
which is a little north of us, but still very vital. But New York State does have tremendous forest resources, not just the Adirondack Park, but the whole Hudson Valley. And the Hudson Valley is also an unusually biodiverse region. And what protects all that biodiversity is, of course, the vegetation. It's trees. It's also the understory too, and so we pay attention to all levels from the tree canopy all the way down to the wildflowers that the ephemerals that are gracing the woodlands right now. So
I drive
And-
the Adirondack Park frequently with my job now. And it's crazy just seeing it all through the seasons, it's now they're getting green again. A month ago it was bare and it's just
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
We appreciate you keeping this front and center. Michael, you're always my go-to when I need to figure something out in this space.
Thank
And you're,
Just anything,
anything.
anything, just go.
In this,
I offer free advice on.
Ask Mike.
There any,
yeah, I found that out also.
Should I use a 1/4 inch bolt or 3/8 inch bolt? But when the Somers Land Trust, no, so you and Gail and Bob are key to that, obviously. And you have your meeting coming up on Sunday.
Oh, yes, we have our annual meeting this Sunday at
2:30.
2:30. We have a speaker, Bud Viverka, who's from Mianus River Gorge, which is a sister organization to us. And Bud is a bear expert.
Oh.
He loves to talk about predators, but particularly black bears. They're restarting their black bear study in the region. They did one a few years previously. It's a set of camera traps spaced throughout the Connecticut, West Fairfield, Westchester, Putnam region. And we don't actually have any camera traps here in Somers, although we do have plenty of bears, and we are affiliated with that research project. In fact, I sent him a video of a bear in Anglefly Preserve that was sent to me by a young hunter who saw it go through about 2 or 3 summers ago. So they're around, and I know people have reported them frequently. So they're about, but the Bud's going to be addressing the issue of living with predators and the do's and don'ts in order to have a collaborative relationship rather than a
You had a great
clinical-
speaker last year about 30 by 30, whatever he said, with
Yeah, Tony Hiss.
this resolution.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
I also read that out in Washington, they reintroduced grizzly bears out
Yeah.
there in their forest.
Well, I can speak.
I would hope you not introduce them here myself.
Well, I spend a considerable amount of my time now out in Washington State taking care of my grandchildren. So yes, they are now reappearing in some of the remoter regions, particularly of the Cascades and up towards Canada. We also have out there gray wolves, and packs are now appearing close to the Seattle area. In fact, my older son saw one at night, probably about 12:30, 1 in the morning. They're quite magnificent animals. It's interesting to see them live rather than at the Wolf Conservation Center behind fencing. But yeah, no, we're seeing that, and the more predators, we need predators because predators are what help balance the wildlife populations. We have a very active hunting program, but hunters are not in sufficient number and to really affect things like the deer population and so forth. Still considerable. So the more predators, the better, especially ones who will deal with deer. Not that bear are the best deer predators, but they will occasionally take a deer.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
anyhow, so we urge everybody to come here, Bud, and we're happy to answer questions about our activities and anything else in the town of Somers environmental. We're not offering anything beyond that.
Yeah,
It's
Just for-
sorry, Anthony.
just for Tony.
Yeah,
Don't answer anything.
Anthony has to call me.
All right, good. Thank you.
No, 2:30.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Oh yeah,
Thank
The
you.
three of
glad to. Yeah, glad.
Yeah, thanks, Bob
your efforts are
and Gail.
appreciated by the town.
Yeah.
Gail.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Good. Excellent.
All right, let's move on to item number 2 here for this evening. State budget update. And we have Assemblyman Matt Slater from the 94th District. Come on down.
Well, good evening, Somers. Thank you
Matt.
for having me today, Supervisor. I appreciate it. Matt Slater, representing the 94th Assembly District, which is the entire town of Somers. I just wanted to come by to give a quick, as quickly as I can, a budget update from the Capitol, from Albany. Before I do, I just want to give a shout out to a wonderful young man I just met down at the middle school at the Community Project Showcase, young man Chase, who did a great presentation on the need for a crosswalk on 202 to Bobo's. I hear him loud and clear. I asked him, what do you do next? Who do you have to contact? And he said, I think I have to contact my state representative. And I said, hey, how are you? I'm your state. It was fantastic to meet him and see all the great students and all their great projects and the vision of things that need to be done here in New York, across the country, and around the globe. So I wanted to talk about the budget, and this thing is massive. And if you think about it, I was trying to figure out the best way to explain it. It's kind of like going to King Buffet, right? Go to King Buffet, ton of food. Some of it you love, some of it not so much, some of it you hate. And it's kind of the same thing with the state budget. This is a $237 billion mammoth budget. Increased spending by nearly $2 billion from the year prior, which we'll get into in a second. But unlike here in local government, and as a reminder, I was a town supervisor for 3 years in the neighboring town of Yorktown. We do handle state operations. There's a specific budget bill for state operations that deals with, just like you, all the different agencies, how to fund their day-to-day daily tasks and monthly tasks. But it goes beyond that considerably. And I think it's important to take some time just to understand and be a conduit between state government and local government. Some of the things I just want to touch upon, just to give you an idea, the two of the largest expenditures that we make as a state is Medicaid at $37 billion. I said billion with a B, as well as school aid, which is $35.3 billion in this year's budget. Now, understanding the process, it is somewhat similar to local government in a sense, but we start every January and the governor puts out a proposal, her budget. The two legislative houses counter that proposal with their own, and then we sit at the negotiating table and you hash it out, and that's your final product. So the governor, for those in Somers who may have heard, her original budget actually cut school aid to more than 50% of the school districts across New York State. Now, much of the 94th Assembly District was spared in that, but the real way that it was being done was eliminating this thing called hold harmless. And hold harmless ensures that school districts, public school districts, are getting the same amount of foundation aid than they did, the same amount at least, than they did the year prior. The governor wanted to eliminate that, and there's reasons the governor wanted to eliminate that, but the process by which she was going about it, we felt was wrong. And so we were able to build a bipartisan coalition to reject that proposal, to make sure that we at least restored the foundation aid to the same level that it was last year. And that's what happened here in Somers. Somers is going to be receiving $9.7 million in foundation aid, which is basically the same that it did the year prior. Overall, Somers is seeing about a $25,000 increase in state aid, and there's a whole list of categories that determines that. But I thought it was really important. It was one of my budget priorities to make sure our school districts didn't lose state aid. And I was very happy to see that in fact was the case in this year's budget. Unfortunately, we didn't get our full proposal, which was an additional 3% foundation aid increase for every school district, something that we thought was very attainable. Ultimately, that was not approved in the final budget. But again, making sure that we eliminated and we're able to block the governor's proposed budget cuts, I think was an important win for us. Other things that I just wanted to touch upon in regards to the budget that's related to schools is the expanded free school meals program, something that I've been very vocal in support of. Right now, the town of Somers and the Somers School District does not qualify for this program. I think it's vitally important that New York State fully fund this. We need $130 million to do it. And that sounds like a lot of money, but those dollars will ensure that every student in public schools gets a free breakfast and a free lunch. Now, why is that important? Just today, the state comptroller released a report showing the food insecurity has continued to increase across New York State. So hunger is a real issue in every community. I don't care what the studies say from the state's perspective. Affluent communities, there's hunger. We know that. Middle-class communities, there's hunger. We know that. And if you think about it, $130 million out of a $237 billion budget to feed every kid, to me, is a no-brainer. I think budgets are a statement of priorities. And if I go back to my King Buffet analogy, this one aspect, since it was not fully funded, for me, goes in the area of food that I did not like coming out of this budget process. And so I'm very hopeful that we're going to be able to get back to the table for next year to fully fund it. And I think we'll see in a little bit why that's so important and compared to some of the other things that we spent dollars on. Childcare is another important issue here in the Hudson Valley. And I'm a dad. I've got a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old. So I understand firsthand the impacts of childcare. In fact, there's been studies that have been done in 2022. The federal government had a tax credit, the enhanced child tax credit, and it actually showed when they had it fully funded, it actually had a real impact on poverty, specifically child poverty. Those dollars, that tax credit needs to be restored, in my opinion, because we can, again, going back to that food insecurity report that the Comptroller's office just released today, is a great way of doing that. But childcare is a real issue. Childcare, I think we can all agree, is an essential service. We saw that during COVID. And it's something that we need to continue to focus on. I've put a proposal together with some of my colleagues. It's the ABCs of childcare, and it does a whole host of things from regulatory reform to tax credits that would, in our estimate, save taxpayers, save parents close to $3,000 annually in childcare costs. And if you think about it, now that $3,000 can be put towards other essential items. And so childcare is a big deal. This year, the state did invest $1.8 billion in childcare programs, which is good. The Business Navigator program, I wanted to just specifically highlight, which is, I think, very important. It's $1 million allocated in the budget. And that program is really going to be a conduit to connect employers with childcare providers for their employees. The business community has done studies on this. And one of the reasons that employees do not actually take jobs is because of the lack of childcare. And so if we're able to connect employers with childcare providers, the hope is that we're going to see more employees back in the workforce, and it's going to be an easier process in finding employees to take up jobs that are available right now. So that, again, goes into the good portion of my King Buffet analogy, which I thought was really good. I want to talk about library aid. Library aid is important to me. I'm the ranker on education technology and libraries. Library aid has increased in this budget, which is great. Library construction aid has increased in this budget, which is actually even better. And I'll tell you why. Because the construction aid libraries rely on is what is going to continue to enhance and modernize our libraries across New York State. I hosted a public hearing with my counterpart, the chair of the committee at the time, Assemblywoman Carrie Warner, and the Library Association had testified that libraries across New York State need more than $1 billion to meet today's needs when it comes to construction costs. And so we're scratching away. Obviously, we're nowhere near that $1 billion mark. But last year, in comparison, we were fighting to restore budget cuts that the governor had proposed. So we've made, I think, great progress. And I thank the governor for not, once again, proposing budget cuts, but in fact, supporting our efforts to increase library aid and construction aid for New York State's libraries. One of the most important things I hear from Somers residents, and I know you already know where I'm going to go with it.
Roads.
Is roads. And roads is a tricky conversation, and I'll tell you why. The governor and Highway Superintendent DeVito joined me in Albany yet again this year. He's a great advocate for your community. The governor had proposed cutting CHIPS funding by $60 million. And I think Supervisor Scarano on the town board knows what that would mean for your highway department's budget and your ability to pave local roads. We fought hard. We actually proposed a plan of an additional $200 million. But for the town of Somers, That's just, again, for local roads. But for the town of Somers, I hear every complaint about the state of our state roads. And I think it's important that people understand that. Route 202, I drive it almost every day that I'm here. 118, 139, the list goes on, 35. And, you know, my teeth are starting to get loose just thinking about it. Fact of the matter is this, and I sit on the transportation committee, and I asked to be on the transportation committee for this reason, because I understand the importance of state roads in our communities. The latest conditions report says that the Hudson Valley state roads and bridges are the worst condition in the entire state of New York. The entire state. And so we worked in a bipartisan fashion to propose an additional $400 million for the core capital plan for DOT. And that is the dollars that go to state roads. The Assembly approved it in their one house. The Senate approved it in their one house. And I'll give credit where credit's due. The Senate went one step further and they said $100 million has to go to Region 8 in the Hudson Valley. Would have been great for us. And then you get to the final negotiation, and again, there's videos on YouTube of me asking these questions. Unfortunately, the governor single-handedly rejected that $400 million investment, which is going to really hamper Region 8's ability to deal with our local roads. How did how did 118 get some of that paving? How did 35 get some of that paving? There was a project that was being done over in Orange County that they actually came in under budget and ahead of schedule. And so instead of just saying, thanks, have a great, 2 weeks off, they said, come on, we need your help because of advocacy by the town board, myself, Senator Harcum, and we were able to get them to come into Somers and do some enhanced patchwork, we'll call it. Not a full pave, not a mill and fill. We understand that, but we also understood the conditions of the roads. And again, hearing the concerns of not just the residents, but also the town board and our highway superintendent. I asked the highway superintendent to identify the worst state roads in the town of Somers, and he identified, and Mr. Supervisor, we signed a letter to this, he identified Route 202, specifically because it's in such poor condition, he can't even plow it during the winter. And so what's happening, he's oversalting 202, and what's 202 right next to? The reservoir. So you're getting this, ripple effect because we don't have enough dollars coming out of Albany to make sure that we have, I think, acceptable road conditions. And again, considering the tax dollars we pay, being last in the state when it comes to the conditions of our state roads and bridges is completely unacceptable. So I put that in the not good enough column of the state budget. Yes, we were able to save off the cuts to CHIPS, but there's a heck of a lot more we can do when it comes to our aging infrastructure, crumbling infrastructure. And I'm very disappointed that the governor didn't agree with us in that sense. We did also pass the newspaper tax credit, which is really important, especially here in Somers. So you have the Somers Record. Local media is unfortunately diminishing significantly because of how hard it is to keep a business open, quite frankly. And so we were able to put together a package that passed in the budget that provides tax credits, important tax credits for job creation, but also retention, in hopes of keeping our local media in place, which is very, very important. So again, that goes in the column of good things. Other good things that I'm happy to report back on, we were able to fully fund the Clean Water Act. So that's $500 million there. We were able to fully fund the Environmental Protection Fund, which is $400 million in the EPF. And I also just want to remind the public that there's still the Environmental Bond Act money that hasn't begun to flow yet. That's an additional $4 billion with a B that's supposed to go to resiliency and protecting our natural resources. In fact, I just did a letter to the governor last week, once again identifying key areas here in the 94th Assembly District that should not be overlooked, specifically when it comes to harmful algal blooms in our lakes. I know that's something that the town of Somers struggles with because of the phosphorus situation. Fact of the matter is that's a problem in every single lake community that I represent. So something that we're fighting hard to get some dollars for. Just a few other items to tick off that I think are really good before I get into two local issues. The other thing that I was very happy to see was it's first in the nation prenatal personal leave, which is, I think, great. So if you're expecting a child, you get 20 hours to go to your medical appointments throughout that term. And I think that's very helpful when you look at some of the statistics that we're seeing here in New York State, as well as cannabis, which is something I wanted to really talk about. I haven't been informed if it's a significant issue here in the town of Somers, but across New York State, there are 36,000 illegal cannabis shops. that are currently operating. Why do we have 36,000 illegal cannabis shops? As a reminder, New York State legalized cannabis use and also legitimized the industry with a licensing program. And what we have 36,000 illegal. That's the estimate. Fact of the matter is the Office of Cannabis Management only had 14 investigators for the entire state of New York. Think about that. 14. And when you talk to law enforcement, who was cut out of their ability to enforce the laws, when they had a situation, we had one in several of the communities that I represent that surround Somers, the law enforcement couldn't do anything other than report it to the Office of Cannabis Management. And with 14 investigators, it was taking 8 to 12 months to respond. Completely unacceptable. And so we actually built a great coalition, a bipartisan coalition with Johnny Zuccaro of the Bronx and Jen Rajkumar of Queens. And we passed really important legislation that found teeth into the legislation. So if you are caught selling illegal cannabis, if you're not a licensed seller, you have a lotto license, tobacco license, alcohol license, all of those now get suspended if you're caught selling illegal cannabis. But I think more importantly, and I bow to your counsel on, we are actually allowing local municipalities to pass laws to allow law enforcement and your building inspector and building department to padlock illegal cannabis shops, because that's what needs to be done. Local law enforcement needs to be part of the conversation, and they need to be allowed to do their job. And I think that's a huge win for the state of New York and for the residents here in the 94th Assembly District as well. I'm going to stop there and see if you have any questions budget related, but I do want to talk about 2 local issues just quickly before I cede my time. Any questions from you guys from the town board?
Matt, you're talking padlocking these illegals. Is that what they've just announced in New York City?
Yes.
Oh.
Yep. So you'll see like my colleague, Assemblywoman Rajkumar, she's actually with the mayor going around, and you have illegal cannabis shops, these illegal bodegas, and they're finally putting padlocks on them to shut them down. Because they couldn't do it before because the law was silent on the enforcement aspect.
Yeah.
So it would make a lot of sense.
This would be a revenue generator for the state. These people are probably bypassing fees and other things that they're doing.
Yeah, the revenue that the state has received from cannabis is way down, well below what was projected and expected. I will tell you that the state actually doesn't feel that right now, and they don't feel that because of the additional revenue that we've received from online gaming, and so they've offset each other.
Yeah.
Which is ironic in a sense, but yeah, we have not seen the true revenue that we expected from the cannabis industry.
Just want to say that the town of Somers did not approve. We're not part of we're not participating.
Right.
But there could
The
be.
retail of.
Right. In fact, every single municipality that I represent rejected that proposal when it was first brought forward of allowing those lounges, et cetera,
Going, right.
to be allowed in municipalities. So every single one is rejected it. However, if you go to other communities, again, I haven't been heard of any specific incidents here, but I can tell you definitively that there have been vape shops that have been selling cannabis, et cetera, et cetera. They are obviously unlicensed and they need to be held responsible. But under the state law before this, there is no real mechanism other than hoping one of the 14 state investigators would show up at their door.
So the approval of all this was supposed to also be accompanied by funding for education in the schools and so on to,
Yeah.
Essentially to educate
But if the
the
revenue
public.
down, you can do less of that.
Well,
Yeah, but they're making, like I said,
I guess the question is, are they doing it? Are they?
So if you ask me, yes. However, there are other instances where the state has swept dollars away from public education.
Of course.
And I'll give you a clear example. Assemblyman Pretlow, I was down with the Westchester delegation in Mount Vernon when the governor proposed her cuts. And Assemblyman Pretlow educated us all, because he's the chair of gaming, that the year prior, the governor had swept close to $1 billion that was supposed to be earmarked for public education to the MTA. And so that is, I think, egregious. And then now we have a proposal, you go fast forward, right? A proposal of cutting school aid to public schools. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And so if we actually keep the dollars where they're supposed to go towards public schools to protect our public schools, I think obviously that's going to go a long way to help taxpayers specifically.
So, you know, I'm on the finance committee at the school. I mean, I just tip my hat to you to fight to keep that flat for us. But it's an unfunded mandate because they're asking the schools to do more.
And asking everybody to do more or
And
less.
This is an inflationary environment. Costs are up. So, I mean, they rejiggered the formula to maintain flat, but
Slightly.
but not allow it to increase.
Right, which if they would have adopted our 3% for everybody,
Yes.
you know, wouldn't have been a windfall, but it would have helped at least a little bit.
Where's the competition for money in the budget? You know, that's sort of making this thing.
For when it comes to schools or when it comes to,
Well, just generally, is it like, is debt service up? You know, the cost of financing is sort of like
everything is up.
Medicaid is up.
Everything, again, increased spending by close to $2 billion year to year from last year. Medicaid, again, being the largest component of the state budget. And when you look at those services and what they provide, I mean, obviously, I think we agree that we have to take care of the people who can't take care of themselves. But there are investments being made that I question. I think that we can be much smarter with our dollars. And frankly, I do think that there are, speaking of people who can't take care of themselves, I don't know, and I'm not convinced that we're doing enough for them.
We appreciate,
Especially our folks who are, you know, OPWDD, developmentally disabled, and folks like that. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that aspect. But listen, like I said, it's not perfect, but you know, you can find wins, you can find losses in this thing because it's so big. But I think at the end of the day, New York State's spending needs to be, you know, scrutinized, because if you look at the economy right now, you know, we saw the Fed's report just yesterday. You look at the food insecurity report from the state comptroller. All of it's pointing to the fact that the economy is struggling, and the economy is struggling when you have large spending by Albany and DC that continues to fuel inflation. And so I think that's problematic. And you know, I've been hollering about a spending cap for Albany for years to rein in our spending. I don't think that we have a revenue problem. I think we have a spending problem. And when you look at some of the things that we spent money on, it's a sustainability question, because someone's got to pay for it at some point.
well, we appreciate you fighting the good fight and, you know, representing our interests.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Two questions. One, I was interested, you talk about childcare
Yeah.
and coupling businesses with.
Yep. The Navigator program.
Right.
Yep.
So is there
Credit to the governor.
any
That was a good
incentive
idea.
or talk about any incentives or credits for companies that get it on site? So rather than 3 miles away,
Yeah.
hey, put it on site. You have some advantages. You get more of your labor supply, which is a problem.
Mhm.
It's a great benefit. You may save the money on salary because people will have.
Yeah.
And it's good for kids, and it will make parents feel a lot better. So I was just wondering.
I don't think that they've promulgated the regs behind it. It's a brand new program.
Yeah.
First time that we're doing this. So I don't think they've promulgated the regs and the specifics behind it. I would support that
There
wholeheartedly.
you go. You're the sponsor right now.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot that we need to do in childcare. I do. But I think that's a great idea. And I'll keep an eye on whether or not that's included in the regulations when they hand them down.
Yeah, please. I'm sure it's probably not in it, but something in the future.
Yeah, of course.
I would hope that there be incentives to put it.
Yeah.
People work that can bring their kids.
Yep.
And they're there when they get sick. My last question is this. Last time you were here, I asked you, what was the thing that surprised you most in Albany? And if you remember, your answer was you were surprised by the degree of bipartisanship
Mhm.
that existed.
Yep.
Is that still true or is something?
I still think it's true.
Good.
I do. You have to be willing to put out your hand and say hello, be a gentleman, and find common ground. And I think that that's desperately needed in government in a lot of ways. And that's something that I've continued to pride myself with. I just started, I was one of the co-founders of the Futures Caucus. We actually have 43 members of the state legislature that have signed up that are under the age of 45. Okay, out of 212. So we believe that number is going to grow as more people come together. But that is a bipartisan coalition. It's actually the second largest caucus now that the legislature has. Republicans and Democrats, all peers coming together to talk about different legislative ideas and priorities that we can put forward and get behind. And honestly, the cannabis laws were two of the bills that we talked about in our first caucus meeting, proposed by two people of the same age group. Again, other side of the aisle, but you can find those commonalities and you can find those partners I think it's still a good place to find it. You have, sometimes you have to dig harder than others depending on the issue. But it's, you can still find that bipartisan sense and bipartisan spirit that's still there.
Rob, we should try that bipartisanship here.
I think it works great.
Working great. Here.
Any other questions on the budget? Because I do want to just touch on just two, if the supervisor will allow me. I know
Yeah, man.
you might throw his pen at me.
One quick question on
Yes,
the
sir.
budget. I mean, on the national level, the migrant crisis is still.
Yeah. Mhm.
And because of it, every town is now a border town and we're not immune either.
Right.
What impacts did that issue have on
Sure.
budget side?
$2.4 billion. That's how much we sent to New York City. And if you look at the and I spent, time on the floor, asking questions. I don't like saying debating because I think, we need clarity on a lot of things. How many people are we helping? Couldn't get an answer. If you look at the comptroller, actually has a website dedicated specifically to this issue because the city is saying that there's one amount of money that we've spent. The state's saying one amount. The comptroller's saying another amount. So I'm going to go by the comptroller's numbers because that's what the comptroller's supposed to be doing. And if you look at last year, Q3, Q4 of last year, and you look at Q1 of this year, the monthly expenditures doubled to $500 million. Who are we helping? How many people did we help? What exactly are those dollars going to? I think there needs to be much greater transparency and accountability on this. And honestly, I go back to what I started with. We needed $130 million to give every kid in New York a free breakfast and a free lunch. We couldn't do that, but we're sending $2.4 billion to New York City. And we don't have any clear guidance or transparency or accountability.
Or end in sight.
Or most importantly, an end in sight. And so I think, from that standpoint, that's, I think sends the very, very wrong message to New Yorkers. Again, when you look at the state of the economy and all the things that are happening here right now, we still continue to lead the nation in out-migration. We have the worst economic outlook in the country, highest taxes in the country. And again, that one simple example. But if you go dig deeper into those numbers, the $2.4 billion is more than we invested is more than the new investment in mental health. It's more than the increase in public school dollars. So you want to talk about trying to increase public school dollars. We spent more on the migrant crisis than we are increasing dollars to our public schools. And so you can, see that trend in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying that there's not a problem, and I'm not saying that we don't necessarily need to find a way to help. But I do think and New York State needs to specifically realize that, people are struggling. Hardworking taxpayers are working 2 or 3 jobs just to survive here. And, not to feed kids, I think is wholly wrong.
Does that 2.4 billion go in as a recurring budget item?
It grew from last year. That's more than we gave New York City last year. So the question is, are we getting?
So it's not 2.4, it's larger than that.
Well, if you combine the 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then next year.
But this year's budget allocated 2.4 billion.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's, I think it, speaks for itself, like I said, from a priority standpoint.
Are we helping the rest of the state? Because they're.
Oh, we gave the Buffalo Bills $5 million to stay in New York. I mean, does that help them? I don't know. I didn't know they were leaving. But that's what I'm saying. There's things that you can find all over the place. And when I say we can spend our dollars smarter, I'd rather give $5 million to go feed some kids breakfast and lunch. Just, maybe that's a dad in me. I don't know. But I think there's better ways to be doing that. If there's no other budget questions, I just want to touch upon 2 local issues. Don't throw your pen at me, Kaiser. But I do want to talk about battery storage for a second, because I've heard from a lot of Somers residents about this issue, proposed project in Carmel. Which one do I need to worry about? All of them? You? So, I encourage folks to check out my social media pages, my Facebook page, my YouTube page, etc., because I debated on the floor. I asked very specific questions in regards to the budget, because the budget expanded the ORES, which is the Office of Renewable Energy Siting. Fact of the matter is, there's a RAPIDS Act, R-A-P-I-D-S, RAPIDS Act, that New York State is implementing. Because if you, again, go back to a report released by the comptroller that'll be featured in local news this weekend, New York State is well behind where it needs to be with renewable energy generation. And that goes to the energy policies that the state's been forcing on us since the closure of Indian Point. My point is, in regards to the battery storage proposal in Mayapack, I believe strongly in local control. I'm a local town supervisor previously. Nobody knows your town better than you. My concern was and remains New York State, because the people, again, residents have been calling my office. We need to get the state involved. The state needs to stop it. Fact of the matter is, if you go upstate, if you go out to the North Country and you see the renewable energy generation projects that are being proposed, fact of the matter is they are overruling local control. The state is, because they're so far behind. And so when I saw ORES in the state budget and the expansion of ORES in the state budget, I was very concerned. And I asked specifically about our project here, the 94th Assembly District. And the good news is that that expansion, while it now includes renewable energy batteries, it only includes them if they are co-located with a renewable energy generation piece, solar, wind. If it's a standalone renewable energy battery proposal, it remains in local control. And I think that is very important, especially with this issue here. Again, there was the report that came out is saying that it takes 4 years for New York State to permit renewable energy projects. And I think we all can agree that the grid, and you have to just go see the New York Independent Systems Operator reports that they put out quarterly. The grid right now is vulnerable because we lack power. So for the state to come in heavy-handed on these projects is problematic. I'm sponsoring legislation with my colleague Assemblyman Norris that would require a mandatory referendum of the host community when it comes to these large-scale renewable energy projects, because I think people deserve a say in what happens in the community. But in regards to the project that's being proposed that impacts Somers, that impacts Mayapack, I say the good news is it remains under local control. And I think that's a big sigh of relief, in my opinion. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk about, and again, Supervisor, don't throw your pen at me, but the Willowwood Gun Club issue that is just beyond Heritage Hills. I just wanted to thank the supervisor for being such an active partner in this particular issue. We had a call with DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, with Department of Health. We had members of the Somers Land Trust on the call, Senator Harcum, who's been instrumental in coordinating all this. And I just want to reassure the residents of Somers and Heritage Hills specifically that we are very much engaged in this issue. We are very much engaged in trying to find solutions to their concerns. And it's been a team effort. And I do want to thank the supervisor for being engaged in it, as well as all of our partners in government. But I did want to also just address that, since I've heard from Joe Manna quite a few times, my good fellow Navy friend. So I did want to just bring that to your attention as well.
Right.
Any other questions that I might be able to answer for you guys, for everyone tonight?
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. Always
All right. Well, listen,
Thank you.
it's always great to be in Somers. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope you all have a great rest of your night.
thanks.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye now.
Thanks.
Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
All righty. Let's move right on to number 3 then. Number 3 here, just Town of Somers zoning discussion here as it pertains to the battery storage facility. I know we had a lot of residents here the other day, last week or a couple weeks ago, asking for the Town of Somers about a moratorium. And we looked at everything, and we believe that a moratorium is moratorium is not something that we should pursue. And the reason why is that we looked at our town code. The head of the building department, our town attorney, as well as our town planner and myself. And we have come to the conclusion that this type of facility is not, I'll say that again, not a permissible use here in the town of Somers. So which is a good thing. So we wanted to just relay that message to our residents and let them know and kind of be rest assured that this type of facility is not a permissible use here in the town of Somers. Does anybody have anything want to add to that or at all?
Well, that's why there's no need for a moratorium, for
Correct.
something to give you time to either craft legislation or to study. And that's why those who call for a moratorium, apparently it's not necessary because there's no zone in Somers where facilities such as that would be approved by the building inspector, which is how these things proceed under law. And that's what happened in the town of Carmel over the line. So it, as it turns out, it can't happen here.
So as the zoning is written, there's no permissible aspects of any of the,
The way zoning works is if it's not listed as a permitted use, it's automatically prohibited.
okay,
There is nothing in the Somers zoning code that speaks to allowing as a permissible use a battery storage facility.
right.
Do you
So-
know in Carmel what is listed that the building inspector interpreted it
Well,
being allowable?
Dave Smith sent me a copy of a letter from Carmel's building inspector. It's dated though, it's back in 2020. And it somehow came to the conclusion that battery storage was a general business use,
Oh,
which general business use is offices and
if you interpret it as a general business use, then there's virtually nothing that wouldn't.
wouldn't be.
Right.
So
Very specific.
whether or not there's a later interpretation,
Yeah.
don't know, but that was back in
Okay.
2020, February 2020.
Yeah.
So they came to a different conclusion right out of the box. But you're quite correct. The moratorium is intended, it's a local law and it's enacted on a temporary basis after a public hearing. And it basically is a timeout.
Right.
Because you've got something in your code that you're not sure you want and you need time to study it.
Right.
And very often they're 6-month terms and they have to be extended. You have to have another public hearing to do that. But at the end of the day, you've got to have hired professionals who do study it and come back to you with recommendations. None of that appears necessary in the case of Somers.
Good.
Unless somebody makes an interpretation that's a stretch, which would be subject to an Article 78, right? I mean,
Well,
Building inspector.
Building inspector
Yep.
has already
Weighed in on it.
indicated it's not a permitted use. Your
Oh.
town planner and your town attorney,
okay,
we would be the three who would be involved.
right.
Now, nothing prevents an applicant from coming into you
And asking, of
with a
course,
petition.
right.
But as you know from other situations, that's a discretionary legislative act and you can just hand it back. You don't have to consider something that you don't wish to consider.
Back to Mayapack, and I'm asking these questions. I know you're not an expert at it because you're not part of that thing up there, but if he took if he interpreted that code in a very liberal fashion, essentially approved that that facility, it could be objected to at another level, right?
Well, in the ordinary course of things, once that opinion was issued, anyone who's affected by it, so any resident, could have challenged it by filing an appeal to the zoning board of appeals in Carmel. You couldn't go right to court. You'd have to go through the administrative appellate process, which is the zoning board. I don't actually know if that happened there or not,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a short fuse.
Right.
You only get 60 days to do that.
Right.
So that time, even if it was 90 days, and I've never seen longer than 90, it would long since have elapsed. But it's a unique situation because as I understand it, there aren't many Carmel residents who are near this proposed facility. So
Nor in favor
probably,
of it,
uh,
Nor in favor of it.
no,
The majority of Carmel citizens are also not in favor.
not
of
in favor.
this.
Well, you wonder if they knew about this interpretation.
It doesn't appear to be the case.
Yeah. So it's an unfortunate set of circumstances.
So does this evolve in a fashion that there could be a legal avenue to pursue sometime in the future?
If it's approved by the Carmel Planning Board,
Yeah,
then that decision would be subject to review by the courts.
right,
There'd be no further administrative review,
right.
but you only have 30 days from the filing of that approval with the town clerk to bring on what would probably be a declaratory judgment action.
And could we participate in that in any way, shape or form? If,
I believe you could.
yeah,
You would need residents to join with the town.
Two?
Well, 2 would be great, 3 would be better,
I think we'd have more than that.
just because of the standing issue.
yes,
You have to be able to show the court that certain residents are affected more so than the balance of the town. So you need that proximity to the problem.
yes,
And when he says town clerk, he doesn't mean
Right.
Carmel.
yeah.
Carmel,
Yes.
yes.
Well, you know, it's not suitable for that area. I don't like the thing up at our border up there. I think most of us share that feeling. I mean, we're not there yet, but if we had to expend, you know, town dollars to sort of push back on that, I think I'd make the investment.
Hmm.
I'd support the investment, I should say, but
If it comes to fruition.
Yeah.
But I think right now, I wouldn't bet on it.
Well, does anyone know what stage of the process they're in? Have they ordered an environmental impact statement? Are they just
I
going?
think that's on the checklist and the to-do list, and quite frankly, the planning board itself hasn't approved this yet.
No, I know they haven't approved it, but who's the lead agency?
I think the
And
planning board is. yeah.
Have they
Not
made
the
a
town.
positive declaration?
I don't know.
Say,
No.
you know, there's a certain
Oh,
amount.
yeah.
Still in front of myself.
Yeah,
They've made a.
You know, not to belabor this too much, but
yeah.
you know,
So the end,
Matt was actually talking about, you know, a state overlay, right? If you had
Right.
certain components,
That's concerning.
that's concerning, right? So if somebody put a windmill on the damn thing, now the state can actually come in with an overlay to your zoning and take local control.
yeah, I think that's an important aspect that Matt said, you know, still having the local control. I think that's very important. So, yeah, that's the hope. The hope lies with the Carmel Planning Board and, you know, with the local control there to make sure they oversee this process and they make sure they do it the right way.
That overlay, that state overlay though, is that legislation in force right now, or is that something that they're thinking about? I didn't really quite, I mean, you may not know, I mean, obviously.
This is the first I've heard of that overlay. It seemed to me he was saying that it was enforceable if it's coupled with some sort of renewable energy,
Right. And so a local,
but
guy-
not as a standalone. Battery storage
right,
standalone did not have that overlay.
Right.
That's not power generation,
Right, it's
Right.
storage.
green or otherwise.
okay.
I mean, the argument on the other side is, well, who's going to approve it? And I think that's the point. I don't know enough about this. If you generate it by some renewable source and you can store it, that benefits theoretically everybody in the future. And I suppose their thinking is, well, if everybody's going to reject it, doesn't everybody have a veto? But I think the thing about this facility, everyone would agree, it's just not appropriate there.
Right.
You know, it just shouldn't belong there. It should never been approved there. That's not what that is made for. There are reasonable fears that people have based upon other these facilities or farms, as they like to call them. So it's not unreasonable to say, wait, we could be in danger. I fully support that. While the theory of it, I understand we want to have more renewable energy. We store it instead of just wasting it, use it when you need it. You know, that's a good thing. Putting it in the right place is the key thing.
I just find it odd that, you know, the environmental 200 feet away from our local
Yeah.
residents. And we really can't weigh in on
Yeah.
what might be the impact of something like that if there was a, you know, problem or whatever.
No, we have no say over it.
Yep. Anybody else? All righty, let's move on to public comment here. Make the motion open to public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Alright, so anybody here for public comment? If you'd like to come up and
Raise your hand. You-
say a few words, public comment, come up to there.
Now's the time.
Now's the time.
Come up
Why don't
to
you come
the
up,
bank, Robert.
speak in
Come
the
up,
mic.
Mike.
come up.
Back from Florida, I see.
Yes, yeah. Nice and well, coldest winter in 85 years. My question is on this battery thing. I'm a retiree of a company called Con Edison. Okay, I'm not a power expert, but I know Con Ed was always looking to even out its loads because it's expensive to turn on generation for a few hours in the evening and then have to turn it off and have to build that generation because they always used to say, everybody wants the power, nobody wants the power plant.
Right.
So the bottom line is, what are the exact, I've read the newspapers when I came up about this battery plant, but I haven't seen anything that specifically states what the risk is. Are they worried about leaks in the batteries or, contamination? We just saw that PFAS, that there's contamination of wells around that in Putnam.
Everywhere.
Yeah, and PFAS is everywhere. So, but what is the actual
Fires,
uh,
fires,
fires? Okay.
meltdowns. That's over in Warwick, New York. They had one to
Oh, is that,
put it out.
I didn't know that.
When it goes on fire. I think people equate it, and I'm certainly no expert on this, but if you look in New York City where the e-bikes are and some people
Oh, big problem, huge.
legally,
Yeah.
same technology as I understand
Hmm.
it, and whatever precautions that should have been taken.
Lithium battery.
taken. Yeah, that's what this is. So whether it's a perfectly a perfect analogy, but that's what
Mm.
concerns people. And then, like you say, leakage, if that happens, what's in those that's going to go out? And that is a sensitive watershed area that comes down into here that eventually would affect New York City.
Oh, yeah, the
So DEP
watershed,
from
we're
the
in the
state
middle of it.
and DEP from the city
Yeah.
would just surprise me that they would allow it. Maybe they don't have any legislation over it. I don't know, or any power over it, but that's, as I understand it. That's
So an accident like that
people
burns
said.
with such intensity.
Oh, yeah.
Local fire apparatus and staffs are not equipped to handle it.
Oh, they had a big problem when
Right.
Ian hit, Fort, what was it? Fort Myers Beach.
Yeah.
They had to pull all the Teslas and put them in the field because they went on fire from the salt water from the surge.
So there's
And-
All right.
a cascading impact.
Yeah, okay. I just was curious to find out what the negative is because I don't think that the local periodicals, the newspapers, put any details in as to the history of this, the risk, and what exactly the impact is.
All the local fire departments, and Rob can speak to this, they've basically looked at this and they said, this is not acceptable because we cannot
Handle the fire.
handle a situation like
Yeah.
this.
Okay, thank you.
Robert, thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Anybody else here for public comment? There's no one else here for public comment. I'll make the motion to close out public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All righty. That brings us to our library team room renovation proposal. Presentation from Lothrop Associates LLP Architects. You want to come on up?
Hello, everyone. Bob Gabalski from Lothrop Architects.
We remember.
Yes.
So when we last were here, there was the idea of expanding the teen room library project to include more of the area in front of the teen room to improve carpet, lighting, shelving, and the like as the lead up area before you get to that teen area. There was also the idea of putting in better, bigger, new windows in both teen rooms and improving the lighting along the path from the new teen room exterior door to the main walkway leading up to the library. And so at the request of the library, we were asked to prepare a proposal for architectural, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection engineering services to accommodate that request for increase in scope of work. And so we had done that and provided everyone with a proposal for that.
And we got that. You last time you were here.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But what I'm remembering is that there was a pause on that to wait until you all heard whether or not the library was successful at getting a grant. And as I understand it, from the library is that news is positive. I don't know if the grant's in place yet, but that's why it was sort of tabled back in September.
Mhm.
So we were asked to come here tonight. Not quite sure why,
Well,
but
Well, I think the grant was for, I mean, one of the things was that we had agreed to a dollar amount and then all of a sudden it was back and it was almost doubled, if I recall correctly.
right.
And I don't have, do we have information on the grant?
I think they're working on it, I think.
Again, and this is not you, I know you understand. And I brought it up at the time, we've seemed to have too many projects that we start off and we sit here and we go, yes, it's $40,000. And then 2 months later, they're back and we need another 30,000. That's not how we should operate. We need to know everything up front. And if it's subject to getting a grant, that's important as well.
Right.
I don't know where the grant stands. I know the library board has had a ridiculous amount of turnover. It seems like somebody's leaving and then a new person every month or two.
Right.
So again, I don't know why you're here. And if there's not anybody from the library with you to talk about the grant, it seems to be sort
Well,
of
listen, I think,
futile. Go ahead, sorry.
no, a lot of times it is also to refresh our memory about the project
Yeah, that,
on hand, right? We,
Yeah, don't take it out on him.
yeah,
Right.
Oh, it's
don't know. It's nothing, absolutely nothing.
That's why always want you to come back and, talk about the project again, right? Because I mean,
happy to do it.
you were here, what, last time, September?
Yeah, and then
September,
we
right?
had met since then to go over the conditions assessment report.
That's almost 8 months.
Yeah.
No, I get it, but
Yep.
I'm saying, I mean, was the library aware of this?
Should be.
I mean,
They asked you to come,
They
right?
asked us
Yeah, okay.
it's okay.
And
They asked you to come
answer any
by
questions.
yourself.
I asked
Might-
on the-
They
That's
threw
it.
you right out there, huh?
Okay, that's what we do.
Okay, so, so
What is the status of the grant for the teen room? You're asking us?
I don't know.
I mean,
That's my point.
Us.
Yeah.
but he's basically.
We don't know.
He's not working on the funding side of it.
Right.
He's working on the construction architectural side of it,
Right.
right?
So we're
Right.
still in the same spot where whatever the number was before, and now it's basically we're looking for another 35 grand or somewhere in that neighborhood.
That's right.
Rob?
Yeah, 34.4.
And I don't know if it was an email or phone call, either before Jennifer left or just after, from Barbara, where they said that the initial news was that the grant looked positive.
We're looking positive and
Yep.
getting it are
That's right.
often
So
very different.
we're not driving this or
No, I know.
forcing anything. We're happy to just stay on the side.
So where are we in terms of the number, in terms of what's the ask? What are we saying? 35, the additional 35,000 gets you to where?
Yes, the architectural engineering services outlined above. Lump sum of
I'm assuming it's the same as from last September.
Unchanged, 34,450 for all the additional architectural and engineering services to accommodate the increase in scope, which is essentially doubling the size of the project
Okay.
physically. And,
And what's the
Potential.
total project cost? And from your perspective or what you're talking?
know someone was gonna ask that and I don't remember what.
your engineering costs, right? I mean, the cost over that, I think there was, and I've done the additional 34, but there's also another 45 before that,
I
correct?
believe that's right.
Looking at 70, almost 75, almost 80 grand for the architectural engineering services. And it was like,
And I remember you saying the construction side of it, right? So, right?
Right.
Okay. What are you going to say? I'm sorry.
no, that's not, the construction side of it, he doesn't, yeah. You're not familiar with have an idea what the construction cost would be on a project of this nature.
That we would provide as soon as we get,
Get the 34,500.
As soon as you do the,
early on, we would generate an initial budget. And then as we develop the document, budget would become more and more detailed and become a harder number.
All the sites you could get out.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
You can kind of put a number to it, but.
Right. It'd have to be because a bit about.
And you are, obviously, your firm is, you specialize partly in library architecture and expanding that. And so this might be an awkward question. How does this project, does this look like, yeah, this is great. This is exactly what the library needs. Would be very nice, not, I don't mean to put you on the spot,
No,
but your opinion of this.
So, what we like to.
And I don't want to take business away from you either.
No, that's fine. What we like to do is come at it budget wise from our experience, because we've done over 160 library projects since 1967. So we think we have a good finger on the pulse of what library projects cost. But at Jennifer's request, we recommended reaching out to Dominic Kelgi from Kelgi Construction and Ed Heine from NASCO Construction. And I believe Dominic gave her the number that she then used to apply for the grant. So it wasn't just the architect's swag. It was a real construction budget from Kelgi Construction. And I just don't remember what the number was.
So, again, this is to what Councilman Garrity was saying. This is the larger picture. So we got the planning part of it, trying to get a sense of what the cost part of it is going to be, the construction part. It appears that we've had some expertise look at this. So there should be a number to pull together here. That's applying for the grant. The grants typically don't cover 100% of any construction. So, it's this plus constructions, less grant. Seems like the pieces of those puzzles are there.
That, you just jogged my memory. What I remember at our last time we were here is that we would develop the documents in a way that there would be alternates in the documents such that you could bid it out in a way that ensures that you do something for just the grant amount. And then if there's another funding stream to pay for any of the alternates, you could do that too. So libraries are always strapped for cash, and this is sort of par for the course on every library project. You got to make sure you have a safety valve so that
Of course, I understand.
if you really like that carpet and it's $47 a square yard and you need to cut some costs, you go with the alternate at $29 a square yard. So there are always ways to lighting, carpeting, HVAC registers and grills. You really can't sort of cheap out on ductwork or electrical wiring, but carpet, shelving, whether or not you put wood end caps or tops on the shelves and just leave the metal shelves exposed, there is always a way to build in a set of alternates that are either add alternates or deduct alternates that are safety valves to make sure that at the end of the day, once it's bid out, you have a project that's buildable and you don't just cancel it.
Got it.
And we're really good at that because that's what we do, because libraries are always looking for a way
Sure.
to target their budget.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate your coming out. I mean, obviously,
Yes.
Thank you.
we have some questions about other money streams.
Yeah,
So,
if I had to guess, I would imagine in the shift from Jennifer's departure to the powers that are
Jessica.
in place right now, that some communication sort of fell by the wayside.
Right.
But I do know there was a budget prepared by Dominic Kelgi from Kelgi for that.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your coming out and staying here for the.
Yep.
Happy to do it. Any other questions?
No?
No,
Anything you want to say? Anything about the libraries you want to ask?
He's left already, but here on library funding. the state.
Are you seeing, are you seeing state funding? Are you seeing state funding come through based on what we heard from Matt?
We have 11 library projects going right now, ranging from restroom renovations to full $20 million projects. And all of them are getting state funding
Okay.
from the New York State Library Construction Grant Program.
Ah.
And the increase in library fund is really looking good because libraries are not just places for books anymore. They're community centers.
Right.
And if you can figure out a way, keep little people in the library as they're on their way to becoming big people, teens, young adults, which is a real important aspect of this project, you have a better chance of keeping them on the literacy path.
Well, one of the interesting things that the library board, the people who are on it before, the people who are on it now, and they were there for years. And I think they just kind of, you just only so many years you can put in. And I remember the last discussions that I had with them, or one of them, was they were saying, do we need more sort of building, or do we need more online digital resources in the building? And I don't know the answer. I'm not the answer.
Well, we do a lot of strategic planning, long-range vision planning, master planning for libraries from the get-go. And I can tell you, generally, the knee-jerk reaction from libraries is that we're short on space. We need more and more and more. And the answer is usually you need to use your space better, which is what's happening here. We're not proposing an addition. They're not asking for one because when we met with them originally, we said, listen, if you do a couple of strategic things on how to reorganize space that you have, you can accommodate the requirements of your project. And think about this. Library spaces are about 50% circulation where feet need to walk, which is extremely high because there are a lot of books. If you deaccession and reduce the number of books, you're reducing the amount of shelving, square footage, and the accommodate, because a shelf is 2 feet wide, the path is 3 feet wide. For every shelf you get rid of 3 feet of circulation. So it's more than 100% of the shelf space. So if you eliminate one shelf, 2 feet by 20 feet long, you're picking up 3 feet by 20 feet long in circulation that you can reallocate to a meeting room, an enlarged teen room, things like that. And when we go in and do building assessments, that's generally where we end up. We're doing a very large renovation for Pearl River Library in Rockland County right now. They had another architect 4 years ago that for a hamlet of 17,000 people where I live in Pearl River, you need a 38,000 square foot brand new $25 million library. It didn't pass. Surprise, surprise. We came in, did a building assessment. We're about to do a project for half of that, repurposing 100% of the existing square footage. And they're going to be able to provide all this meeting spaces and program spaces for the programs that they currently cannot accommodate. So we just finished this building assessment for Somers Library.
Yeah.
And that's our conclusion too. There's a lot of square footage in that library that can be repurposed for new uses.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I know something about is high school libraries. And you don't need the Encyclopedia Britannica, Reader's Guide to Periodical Literature and all that.
Here.
So, yeah, take that out, put it online, and those become more small group meetings for project work that they've been able to do without increasing the size of it. But sometimes you have to increase the building size. So I guess, we rely on your expertise.
Yeah.
So we appreciate your coming out.
Sure.
I think what we need to do is we have a new director and for all intents and purposes, the board is over 50% new. I'm not even sure if some of the members have been involved in this at all. And I think we need to go back and find out about these grants and find out what the board thinks continually. We hear from maybe one of them, but I don't know if we've heard from all of them because some of them have only been on for 3 or 4 months and it just seems to be a lot of turnover. But we appreciate you coming out.
And we're happy to come to a meeting with the town and the library together, sort of re-energize things or take it in a direction that you feel is appropriate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Figure out that grant stuff for you next time.
Next.
All righty, on to number 5 here. Proposed code change for accessory apartment. Anybody have any discussion on this? I know it's we're making some changes here, a little bit more add on to a little bit more in depth to cover a couple other things. We had some questions. So we're looking to just add on to this code change for accessory apartments. Patty, if it's all good, I would like to put onto next week agenda to schedule the public hearing in June. All right.
Roland, did you review this, I guess?
This came from the zoning board,
Okay.
did it,
I don't know.
My recollection.
I don't.
No, this came from
Tommy?
Tommy.
And
Same thing.
Yeah.
and the nuance, nuance of the change, do you know?
I haven't said it.
All right. Okay.
All righty, here to propose local law for community water supply systems to clearly display pump house information. We got a thing here from the Bureau of Fire Prevention at our monthly meeting on March 2024. It was reported that the Somers Volunteer Fire Department responded to a call at a community in town regarding a water main leak. Upon arrival, they were unable to find any contact information for the water company, which delayed them from resolving the problem. So the request is being made to add a local law, town code of the Town of Somers, requiring areas with community water supply systems to clearly display in a weatherproof enclosure the current water company name and 24-hour contact information on the pump house. I think it's all good information. It helps speed up the time. So Patty, let's, next week agenda, schedule public hearing for June.
And it came from the zoning board.
This one,
Yes.
Maybe this is the one I'm thinking of.
No, it is, that's correct.
okay,
Patty, send me that one too.
Yes.
okay. Refer request to purchase one parcel from the Town of Somers, 11 Hemlock Drive, lot 5.15-3-32 from, to the Assessor, Highway Department, Open Space Committee, Parks and Recreation, Planning and Engineering Department for evaluation. Normally what we do here is if someone is interested in buying a town-owned property, we refer it out to those, to the Assessor, Highway Department, Open Space Committee, Parks and Rec, and Planning to see if the town has, needs it for our own purposes, or it is, feel it's necessary that we could sell that. So what we do is we refer it out. They'll take a look at it and then give us back their information on that. So I'll make the motion to refer out the purchase for one parcel.
Again.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move. All right. Request permission to purchase 2023 Dodge pickup from Robert Green Truck Division on the Onondaga County Police and Administrative Vehicles Contract not to exceed 50,743 spot 26. That was dated. You like that? Dated on April 24 from Steve Rawlson, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. I'll make the motion to request permission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Now, let me ask you, do we send someone up to bring it back?
I believe we do. I believe just
They might trailer it down.
I could,
trailer it down, but
I-
I don't know. I don't know.
I got friends
That's
up
a
there.
great,
I'm
that's a,
just asking, maybe I could.
do you want to take it down?
Great trip.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
I got friends up there.
And then number 2 on this one for Parks and Rec is request permission to purchase 2024 Dodge 3500 from Robert Green Truck Division, the Onondaga County statewide piggyback contract truck equipment contract not to exceed 83,242 spot 75, and that it was dated on April 24th from Steve Rawlson, Superintendent of Parks and Rec. I'll make the motion to request permission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Financial, no additional business. Highway, no additional business. Personnel, there are some current vacancies out there as well. Affordable Housing Board, Library Board of Trustees, and the Planning Board. Upcoming vacancies in Affordable Housing Board, 2 2-year terms. And then also want to accept the resignation, instead of acknowledge, we're accepting it. Accept the resignation of Taylor Winchy, maintenance mechanic repair for the Town of Somers, effective May 1st, 2024. Just before I say anything, unbelievable addition to the Town of Somers. His craftsmanship, his detail to work, his just his attention to detail, impeccable. He will be missed. I am so proud of him, and the fact of taking this new position. He deserves it. I would have probably fired him if he didn't take it. So I think really highly of Taylor. Missed, and we will be looking for a new maintenance mechanic. So if anybody's out there listening, we are looking for another maintenance mechanic.
I only met him once, but the number of people have said the same thing as you.
Oh.
Like, oh, that's a big loss for you guys. He's only been here how long?
Oh, not even a year.
Yeah.
Oh, a year. A little bit, just a year.
Yeah.
Just a year.
No, he certainly made an impression.
He's a good guy, very good guy, and he does great work. We're gonna miss him.
Yep. I'll make the motion to accept the resignation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
With regret.
With regret. That's right. And number 4, acknowledge the resignation of Joanne DeMays as a member of the Somers Library Board of Trustees effective April 18th, 2024. I think here as a board here, we kind of need to figure out what's going on over at the Somers Library with their board members. And I think, since December of 2022, we've had 7 people on the board resign. So we need to kind of come together and buckle down and kind of figure out what's going on up there and see how we can, keep these people around a little bit longer, because all of, as we can see that we've had some turnover there we've had some loose ends that we need to kind of figure out. So as a town board, we'll figure that out and make sure that there's some more continuity going forward when it comes to that board, but also help Jessica out in her getting her feet wet as well.
And that's what I was getting at before too, Rob, is just that, I mean, if there's 5 of us, if 3 of us left, the 3 people got replaced, the vision could be totally different. And we have a project from however long ago. Is the board all still on board with it? Do the new people think it's a good spending of the monies? Is, from their standpoint, and, it's changed dramatically. Like you said, 7 people on what are there? Did they increase it to 9? Board, but that they only did that in the last little while. So, it's got a lot of new people on it who I'd like them to look into these projects and see if their vision is the same as maybe some of the past board was.
Yeah, they're all so new. And this is a volunteer position. So you come on the town board, we are expected, this is our job. Town of Somers pay us, but we're expected to study, know things, and you don't know everything right at the beginning, but you should pick up as time goes on. These people are volunteers. They may not know, you're right, Tom, about these projects from the past. So when the other board said we want to increase digital resources, not the building, they may not be aware of that plan. And there was a reorganization plan within the library done by an architect years ago. So that, I guess in anything, right, Anthony, in any corporation, institutional knowledge, I think that's what you guys call it.
Yeah, it's important.
That is important. And so, yes, you're right, Rob. People who I'm sure they've all intended to stay there. I don't know why they move or not, but we do need that stability on that board to build institutional knowledge over the course of years. It's not a lifetime apartment. You're not promising 20 years, but we do need people to do that.
We do.
And we have that on the planning board. We have that on the zoning board. We have that on the Parks and Rec board.
I think the new library director, I mean, I'm very impressed.
She's great.
I think she's great. I'll get her up to speed. And I think she'll weigh in here as well.
Yeah. And that said, we want to thank Joanne for her time on it. She was, I was impressed when we went to the meetings, and she always was learned on what was being discussed.
Yeah.
We certainly want to wish her well and thank her for the time.
Okay, moving on to planning engineering, no additional business there. And then police, no additional business, proposed consensus agenda. We'll move that to next week. And then calendar. Okay. May 9th, right? Town board regular meeting. We'll have a public hearing, proposed zoning map amendment to rezone the property 295 Route 100, tax map design 17.18-1-1.2 from R80 to neighborhood shopping in the town of Somers. And then June 6th and June 13th, we have a 7 p.m. work session and town board regular meeting. July 11th and August 8th. We're combining the two for a town board work session and town board regular meeting. You know what, Patty? I'll do the announcement for you, Pepper, right? I will tread lightly. I'm treading lightly. Did you look at this? I did. You did. I'm good, right? I'm good. You read it over. Perfect. Go. Somers Lions Club Carnival, May 8th through the 12th, Fireman's Field. Westchester County Mobile Shredder coming to Somers. That's May 14th. That's 10 to 1 at Reese Park. The annual statewide ban prohibiting residential brush burning. That is going on currently now and through May 14th. Community Center for Northern Westchester, 8th Annual Moms for Moms Drive. That's Wednesday, March 1st, 2024 through Wednesday, May 15th. And you can go to their website and you can drop off some stuff there at the 84 Bedford Road in Katona, New York. Somers PTA E-Waste Recycling Day. That is May 18th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Somers Intermediate School. $10 per car, and all proceeds will go to the Somers PTA. Go on to the page number 2. We have a lot of Somers Senior Program Casino, Somers Senior Programs Casino Bus Trip. That is May 24th, which is a great day in history. Bus departs from Van Tassel House at 8:30 a.m. and return at 8:30 p.m. Wind Creek Casino in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Please contact the Van Tassel House Senior Center there for more information. Westchester County's 56th Annual Salute to Seniors. That is Thursday, May 30th, 2024. Westchester County Center in White Plains, 8th Annual Charity Car Show in memory of Louis DeMarco, Sunday, June 2nd. And that is 9 to 3, Somers Intermediate School. And then the Town of Somers Independence Day celebration in partnership with the Somers Lions Club and the Somers Chamber of Commerce. That is July 3rd. And it's get there early, 5, and or we got 4 here, but it's usually 5 until fireworks. And there'll be shuttle bus services between the high school and Reese Park. And we have 2 amazing bands again, same bands as last year. And we have a new thing coming there as well. We have a lot of activities for the kids, and it should be a fun night.
Some new things too.
A new thing.
We got some new things.
New thing.
We got some new things coming. So flyers went out.
Hey, Patty. Got
Patty?
new-
We got some new things.
Okay, so I got some good, I got some bad. I'm gonna start with my sad news for today. Unfortunately, I have no fun fact for today because I have too much to talk about. So, sad day in the town of Somers. This week has been a crazy week in the town of Somers. We've had a lot of strange, tragic things go on.
Yeah.
But sadly enough, we lost our one and only Margaret Corderoni. Margaret Corderoni was our town clerk, but prior to being our town clerk, in August of 1974, the position of deputy town clerk was created. Margaret was appointed to that position on September 11th and held that position until 1990. I happen to be I have the honor of holding the office of deputy town clerk. So that only means that we've only had about 4 deputy town clerks in the town of Somers history.
Mhm.
Happy to be one of them.
It's an elite club.
Margaret was acting town clerk from August 1st, 1990 to her election in 1992. Fittingly enough, on August 1st of 2022, Margaret Corderoni retired. She will be sadly missed. She was a huge influence in my life. She's the one that although I've always loved the town of Somers, she made me love being a town clerk. So
And are you done about Margaret?
I'm done with Margaret.
Yeah, I just want to say that I've known Margaret for,
No, I'm not.
oh, you go, you finish.
Okay.
Oh, I was gonna say, I've known Margaret, or knew Margaret for years. She was friends with my mother. I went to school with some of her kids. As I was running for office the first time, 17 years ago, she supported me. She gave me advice on what to do, saw some of the things I was handing out and tweaked them for me. And then every now and then it would be so pleasant that I would get through Facebook mainly, I would get a little note from her, you know, how's things going when she went down to Florida. But she was a great lady. She was a great town clerk. I had not heard until I walked in tonight and just like getting hit in the face. It's just, you just don't like to hear it. So best to her family. And she really was a great personality in the town of Somers.
I'm sorry. So I started with the fact that she was the first deputy town clerk. But I also have this little note that since 1918, there have only been 6 town clerks in the town of Somers.
Wow.
Again, very honored to be one of them.
Yes.
6 years.
Wow.
6, 7.
Wow.
You can talk about this? Good.
They serve
Oh,
basically
I'm letting you go first.
18 years on average.
Back off.
I'm backing off. Don't worry.
Okay, so for our good news, I'm very, very, very proud to announce, and again, to be a Somers resident, to be a Somers Tusker, and to be a part of all of these people's lives, especially this one. Nick Gargiulo, class of 1918. Oh, he's gonna do it now.
Oh.
2018.
Oh, there you go.
Come on.
He did not have a losing.
It works better if we
Where's the
hear it.
volume?
He's not supposed to.
Is it?
Paul, get the volume.
Or at least closed caption.
I don't have my.
Well, he just got drafted.
Okay, anyway. So Nick Gargiulo, Somers class of 2018, one of the players from the 2016 championship football team of Somers High School, has been drafted. Number 256, round 7 to the Denver Broncos. Nick is our first Somers football player to be drafted to the NFL.
Thanks.
I've had the pleasure to know this kid most of his life. My son had the pleasure of coaching him. Number 66, which some of you know what that means to me, has been retired because of Nick Gargiulo in the town of Somers. Let's go, Nick.
And I gotta say something else here too, because Nick was my son's mentor when Tommy was a sophomore in high school. He is the nicest kid you're ever gonna meet. He was, went to Yale for 4 years, was the captain his senior year, then did a year at South Carolina, where I believe he was the captain as well.
You was? Well, here.
Just a leader. I mean, a leader in every sense of the word. He was one of the ones that when Tony DiMatteo did the mentoring program with the youth league, he used to go to the practices and the games and just really is just a, you say this about a lot of people, but with Nick, he's just a great guy and a leader, and God bless him. Wish him the best here. Hope he makes it. And I think he's going to do great.
And Nick, Coach Cleary still hopes that, you're going to Indianapolis eventually.
Giants.
I did not know him, but I did watch him, and of course, everyone knew of him. But, I've coached a lot of high school athletes, and you kind of get a feel for them when you just watch them. And you just remind me what you said, such a nice kid. He's coming off the field. I don't know if it was practice or a game. You have all the little kids there, waiting to get on the field or I guess it's at the end of their practice and they're waiting to get on, and they know that he's one of the studs there. He's a big guy. He's the biggest guy they ever saw. He was so good with them. He was like you would hope a pro player would be.
Now he's one.
Setting a good, now he is. Setting an example, being polite to each one, respectful. I think he actually signed some autographs, and that's what I remember seeing him go, that's the kind of kid you want to coach, kind of kid you want to be. So now he's got the success. We all become Broncos fans. Let's
Yeah. Right.
I managed to follow him through, especially with South Carolina, because those games were more televised than the Yale games, but I watched them. I watched all of his South Carolina games and rooted him on. And
So I had the pleasure of getting a FOIL request from an investigator because Nick was going to the NFL. So I knew prior
Wow.
to all of this.
Pretty cool.
And, I sent it to my police department and, we got no response because that's the kind of kid Nick is. And I did respond in my email that we don't have access to state police, my typical response. But I made sure I put in a little note that you could not find a better person.
good,
Nice.
good for him.
Yeah.
And congratulations to his parents as well, who are
Uh-huh.
great people as well.
Thanks for that, Patty.
Yeah, let's go.
That's a great one.
Before tonight, anybody else want to say anything?
Just real quick on May 3rd and 4th, tomorrow and Saturday, the Lions track meet will high school. Dozens of schools participate. I believe it's one of the largest track meets in Westchester.
It is,
Yep.
for sure.
Come out and support the Tuskers.
And that's a big one. See all that, that's.
I think it's supposed to be nice weather too, which is
Yeah.
better.
Tom, anything else?
No,
Anthony?
No, we're good.
No, so we had the pleasure of going over tonight to Somers Middle School and the community project showcase, 8th grade community project showcase. There's a lot of amazing things going on here in town, and I know there's been a lot of things, in social media land or papers that have may get you down a little bit. But just look around. There's some amazing things happening. There's some great community, great kids. Just stay true to the positive stuff. Don't just get caught up in all the negatives that are out there. Look around you. There's so much good that's going on here in the town, and I couldn't be more proud of the 8th grade kids here at this project. I couldn't be more proud of a fellow Tusker getting drafted to go to the NFL, and playing on that field, it's something else. But now having one of have one of our own going to the NFL. It says a lot about the coaching staff, says a lot about the community, and says a lot about his parents. And to be drafted is an amazing, amazing, amazing accomplishment. So yeah, it'll be hard for me to root for the Broncos, but I'll be rooting
Yeah.
for him. And on that note, I'd like to make
You deserve some credit. Not for him.
not for him.
You- But you deserve some credit on Tuesday night or last night? Tuesday night, Summer Source.
Yeah.
You and Superintendent Ray Blanche sponsored a night of ideas, of sharing ideas at the middle school. A variety of people from Heritage Hills, obviously school people, town people, and about increasing the sense of belonging and how to do that in town. Obviously, schools are about that, but also small towns are about that. That's why I like a small town. And, you know, that's something we talked about it that night, that they're in the United States, among small people, you have 30% reporting depression at some point as teenagers, sometimes thinking of hurting themselves. And you also have that among older people, and those numbers have gone up. And so it was an important topic, and I give you credit for bringing that along with Ray Blanche, you know, and bring it more to the forefront. It's not something that people talk about a lot, and you're talking about something positive. It was so interesting that night. The first part, we were talking people's stories, and listen. I want to hear all these stories where you're actually listening to people intently. You had to go 7 minutes, just you couldn't say anything. You had to listen to that person next to you. And it was a good lesson. You know, to everybody's got a story, and so I thank you for doing.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was an extension of the Somers Community Council that
Yeah.
you run,
Right.
which is, you know, it was a different variation of that meeting. But essentially, you know, we bring all the support organizations together once a quarter, where they exchange ideas and they express what they're doing, the challenges that they're experiencing. And we also invite, you know, community leaders that, you know, participate in this as well. One of the things we hear is that, you know, people say, well, we don't know those things are going on. You know, we're looking for support. Why don't you do this? But when you peel back that onion one layer, you find out that there are many organizations in town that provide those supports. And this is our effort to bring them together so people understand, you know, what's available. And I think that's been a successful program.
Yeah, it started with Rick, former town supervisor Rick Morris. He started that, and we can kind of, you know, kept on going with it. And you know, we're getting a lot of feedback, and again, you know, we're trying to do our part as a town and as a community to make sure everybody knows where to go to if they have or a resource where to go to if they have something going on in their life. And yeah, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but you know, it's the listening part, I think, which is the key in finding out. And then it's also the trust factor of being able, when that person shares that information with you, that you help them in the best way you can, but also give them the encouragement to come back to you again to have that conversation. And Somers is an unbelievable community, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. And I think everybody else here is tonight. And on that note,
I just have to say one other thing. As a municipal group here, I mean, we do our effort collectively, individually, to reach out to other municipal organizations. So we have a close relationship with the school. We have a close relationship with the fire department. We have a close relationship with the Lions Department, the chamber,
Scouts,
and you know, through those connections, you know, the community is what it is. And, you know, I think that's, you know, that's important. So I think it's the community leadership that's here that leads with those values.
I agree. All righty.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Good night, everyone.
You blaming Rich now. Going,
Oh, I know.
I was
Thanks.
all you, right?
The end part of it was, yeah.
Town attorney and.
Hi.
Carmel is-
How you doing?